Confirmed cases of coronavirus in Nigeria rise to 323.
Christians observe Easter at home as clergy give messages of hope.
The darkest hour is just before the dawn, but soon it will be daylight again.
Keep faith, we shall overcome, President Buhari tells Nigerians at Easter.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss COVID-19 and the Easter celebrations.
For the first time in many centuries, this year's Easter was observed without worshippers in most churches and worship centers nationwide. And even the Vatican in Rome, which is usually besieged with hundreds of thousands of worshippers during Easter, was virtually empty when the Pope relayed his Easter sermon, Kingsley.
That's right, Kirian. Of course, this is no thanks to the devastating coronavirus pandemic, which is on rampage across the globe. Now, when Italy recorded more than 800 deaths in a day, there was sorrow across the world. And then, over the weekend, the United States of America became the first country to record more than 2,000 deaths from coronavirus in a single day. Kirian, I bet the world badly needs healing and a cure for this pandemic.
Precisely, Kingsley. You know, back home here in Nigeria, the nation was has hit the two-digit death toll from the virus, with 10 deaths recorded so far, while 323 cases of COVID-19 have been confirmed by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, as we indicated earlier, and about 85 persons discharged.
That's right, Kirian. Now, while we sympathize with the Western world where deaths have been recorded in thousands, Nigerians are earnestly praying that the country doesn't go the route of community transmission on the huge death toll, which is why we have the various restriction orders in place by the federal and state governments, which, of course, have taken a toll on the Easter celebrations in the country.
Exactly. Easter messages and sermons were streamed online by many churches, and the clergymen used the social and conventional media platforms to transmit messages of hope to humanity. At a time when 2/3 of the world's territories are locked down and humanity is living in fear of the coronavirus, Pope Francis in his Easter message told the world to look to God for healing and restoration.
Now, President of the Christian Association of Nigeria, the Reverend Shukbo Ayokunle, while felicitating with Nigerians at Easter, called for obedience to the restriction order, which, according to him, does not imply unbelief in divine healing, but the application of God-given wisdom in Nigeria's quest to overcome and wipe out the coronavirus from the country.
Now, on the program today, we will look at the significance of Easter vis-a-vis the situation in the country today as it concerns the COVID-19 pandemic. What impact is the pandemic having on the Easter celebration this year, and what lessons are there to learn? So welcome to Good Morning Nigeria on the NTA this Easter Monday. My name is Kirian Umayo.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I joined my colleague Kirian to also welcome you to the program and to say Happy Easter to all our viewers around the country and indeed elsewhere in the world. We're reaching you, as always, live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, where we're broadcasting from our Abuja headquarters studios. Now, let's take the highlights of the morning news, and here is our colleague, Lydia Odijeochi. Good morning, Lydia.
Good morning, Kingsley and Kirian. Welcome to the morning news. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, says as at 9:10 p.m., 11th of April, 5 new cases of COVID-19 were reported in Nigeria, totaling 323 confirmed cases in the country. Of the 5 new cases, 2 are in Lagos, 2 in Kwara, and 1 in Katsina. The NCDC says 85 have so far been discharged, with 10 deaths recorded. This new data of confirmed cases cuts across 19 states in the country. And now to Easter. From St. Peter's Square Basilica, Vatican City, Rome, Pope Francis urges Christians not to yield to fear, but trust in the resurrection power of Jesus Christ and his victory over death.
This is the unique hallmark of the power of God. The risen Lord is also the crucified one, not someone else. In his glorious body he bears indelible wounds, wounds that have become windows of hope. Let us turn our gaze to him, that he may heal the wounds of an afflicted humanity.
Now, President Muhammadu Buhari also says this year's Easter comes in the midst of COVID-19, which is affecting the entire world. In his Easter message, where he rejoices with Christians on the celebration, President Buhari enjoined Christians to rekindle faith in Christ, who overcame persecution, sufferings, and displayed endurance, steadfastness, and above all, piety, as Jesus Christ represents man's ability to withstand temporary pains in the hope of everlasting glory. At a time nations are on lockdown due to the coronavirus pandemic, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says now is the time for people to be closer to God and renew their faith in his ability to heal and deliver the country of any disease. The Vice President, in his sermon, Easter sermon delivered online to the church in Nigeria, titled Criminals on the Cross, notes that people are saved by grace and not by work. Salvation, he says, is a gift and not a reward. He describes Easter as very important to people of faith, which will continue to be celebrated in all circumstances.
Very special, a very, very special day in the Christian calendar, because it is the morning of the resurrection, the day that Jesus Christ rose from the dead. And we're going to celebrate this day, and we'll keep celebrating it because it is the evidence of our salvation, the evidence of our redemption.
In the same vein, His Royal Majesty Omo Noba Nedo Uku Akpolokolo Eware II, Oba of Benin, felicitates with the Christians on the occasion of Easter. The monarch, in a statement, advises Christian leaders to endeavor to practice what they preach in order not to mislead their congregation. He reminded Christians to extend hands of fellowship to the needy and the less privileged in the society. While wishing Christians a happy Easter celebration, His Royal Majesty calls on Christians to fervently pray to God to forgive the sins of humanity and bring to an end the coronavirus pandemic that is ravaging the world. The reality of the coronavirus pandemic and the associated lockdown in most states of the country have affected the celebration of Easter. For the first time in recent history, Easter Sunday, which normally is a worship festival in most Christian congregations, is low-key in celebration across the country and indeed the world.
As a child of God, knowing that there is power in the resurrection, there is resurrection power, the power that raised Jesus from the dead. That power is able to quicken your body.
Globally, we are facing a global crisis for the COVID-19. The Church of God is supposed to be praying and interceding that God will heal our nation.
As Christians all over the world mark the Easter celebration, Minister of Labor and Employment Chris Ngige extends his best wishes and God's protection to Nigerian workers, especially now that the world is confronted with the coronavirus pandemic. The minister, in a statement, notes that health workers in various fields understand the hazards they are confronted with and assures them of federal government's appreciation, provision of vital protective equipment, and insurance cover for them against all hazards, disability, and even death, in consonance with the Employee Compensation Act of 2010. The act makes for adequate compensation of workers and their family members in case of any eventualities in the course of their work. Barely 2 days after the 9th extraordinary OPEC and non-OPEC meeting, an urgent 10th extraordinary OPEC and non-OPEC ministerial meeting is again underway at the instance of the chairman, Prince Abdul Aziz bin Salman Al Saudi of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and co-chair Alexander Novak of the Russian Federation. The meeting, which is web-based, is in the context of ongoing consultations following the 9th extraordinary OPEC and non-OPEC ministerial meeting, which ended without a commitment from Mexico. And that's the morning news. The program continues with Kingsley and Kieran after this break. Good morning.
Program is Good Morning Nigeria, and it's nice to have you with us. And next is Business News with Kolo Mohammed.
Hello, and thanks for having you there. Around the globe, efforts are in top gear to not only defeat COVID-19, but to also restart economies. Measures are employed to optimize business, trade, and commerce in the presence of a lot less physical contact. A paycheck protection program is on, and Nigeria seems ready.
There is a particular application that we have that was developed recently, a solution that was developed here in Nigeria, and it is known as the Kobo 360 solution. The Kobo 360 solution is trying to link up truck owners with now the cargo owners.
It's a public holiday, and so this week's activity on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange will commence tomorrow, Tuesday. As always, NTA Business News will bring you closing figures subsequently. My name is Kolo Mohammed. Remember, it pays to stay safe, observe lockdown, and ensure healthy plus thorough social distancing.
Thank you, Kolo Mohammed, for the business package. Next is newspaper review.
All right, let's welcome our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atoyebi. Bayo has been around for a while, and you're most welcome, Bayo.
Thank you, Kirian. Good morning, Kirian.
Yeah.
Good morning, Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria. We hope our nation and the world will rejuvenate and resurrect from the COVID attack very quickly.
That's right. Bayo, pleasure to have you back.
Thank
and just to reassure our viewers that Bayo wasn't off on account of COVID-19. We had a number of calls and inquiries trying to seek out why he had been absent. But otherwise, Bayo, delighted to have you back on set.
Thank you too.
We hope that you are fully rested.
Yes.
Okay, so let's begin by taking a look at the Daily Sun, one of the three papers that we're reviewing this morning. Daily Sun, there's an earpiece there. It says COVID-19 clinical trial showing promising results, says NCDC. 15 pharmaceutical companies working on different drugs and vaccines. That's according to a report. Details can be found on page 28. Now, there is a kick-out to the latest story headline. It says, an unusual Easter. Churches on lockdown as Christians worship online. Don't give up hope. Catholic bishops admonish faithful. That's the writer to that. And you can see a photograph taken at St. Michael's Church of Nigeria, Anglican Communion in Kaduna yesterday, the empty pews during the service for the Easter celebration. Investors lose 1.8 trillion naira, seek government's intervention. It is on page 24. Alleged molestation of Nigerians, Chinese government defense action. Palliatives, Bishop takes on federal government. And IBB says no room for blame game, that's page 27. 123 naira 50 kobo per litre. NNPC outlets and orders the 5 federal government's directive. That's page 2. And 3 pastors arrested for violating sit-at-home order in Warri. And then you can see the sidebar there. That's the illustration of the COVID-19 cases. But the paper is reporting according to his index, 7th of April, but the figures it is giving there are indeed the latest figures for Nigeria. Those figures were as at yesterday, being the 11th of April. 323, that's confirmed cases, 85 recovered, 10 fatalities. And you can see the distribution according to states. Lagos 153, Osun 22, Federal Capital Territory, that's 52, Oyo 11, Edo 8, Akwa Ibom 5, Kaduna 4, Ogun 4, and Bauchi, of course, has 8, and then the others are distributed accordingly. Worldwide, you have over 1.8 million persons who have now been infected, and unfortunately, over 13,000, about 13,600 are now deceased.
All right, let's turn to the Leadership newspaper. Leadership newspaper.
I'm sorry, Kira. Let me just take this again. The printing here is a bit small. I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Let me just take this again. You can see the printing there is very tiny on the front page of the Daily Sun. Now, worldwide cases 1.8 million and deaths 113,296 according to the paper. In Africa, you have 13,600 cases and 742 deaths. Clear.
All right, back to the Leadership newspaper. Nigeria eyes $30 per barrel as OPEC cuts output by 9.7 million barrels per day. The story is on page 4. Troops kill bandits, rescue captives in Niger State. The full details on page 2. Now, the lead story, Easter. Oshibajo governors urge more sacrifice to defeat coronavirus. With several riders to that, federal government opts for digitization of cash transfer. Lagos discharges 5 more COVID-19 patients. IBB cautions against blame game. 2 foreigners arrested. 262 vehicles impounded over breach of lockdown order. NIS profiles 23 Nigerian returnees from Togo. Boris Johnson recovers, leaves hospital. That's the Prime Minister of Britain. And now the photo story, of course, is that of the President and his vice. And on the right-hand side of that photo story is the IMF plans $100 billion financing for Nigeria, others amid recession fears. At the bottom, forgive debts of poor nations. Pope tells world leaders. It's on page 13. Police arrest 150 suspected robbers, cultists in Ogun State. It's on page 2. 90 children, wives of 11 traders burnt by bandits, seek help. That's on page 23. ASU opposes slash of education and health budgets. That's on page 12. Now let's bring in Bio.
Well, let's start with the Catholic Pontiff. Pope Francis broke with centuries of tradition and had to conduct Easter Mass with just 2 dozens of persons and Mass servers. And he used the occasion over the social media to appeal to the world leaders to give hope and opportunity to all workers that have been laid off. He called for sanction relief around the world and also debt forgiveness and ceasefire in areas of conflict. This, he says, is necessary to calm the conflicts and the financial crisis that has bedeviled the world. He thanks the doctors and nurses all over the world who are putting their health online to protect citizens. Vice President Professor Yemi Osibajo and state governors also have enjoined Nigerians to control themselves and consider the restriction order as a sacrifice. The Vice President, who preached online at the Aso Chapel, likened the sacrifice of Jesus Christ on the cross to what we are facing in the era of the pandemic. Governor Rotimi Akeredolu of Ondo State also called for concerted efforts, particularly to obey the stay-home order. And he said that with cooperation, COVID-19 will be defeated. He said the resurrection is a strong message, and the likening of it is that Nigeria will resurrect over COVID-19. Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State also felicitated with Christians in Borno State as well as across Nigeria. He said, Nigeria, while we are fighting COVID-19, should not forget that there had earlier been a COVID 2009, that is Boko Haram, which is also a very dangerous because it is propagating an ideology of violence, and it is as dangerous as COVID-19. Omanobane do Ukuapolokoro, Oba Uware II, had enjoined religious leaders to please practice what they preach to the followers so as not to mislead them. He also enjoined all of them to pray for forgiveness of sins so that we can overcome COVID-19. Now, the situation that has been reported is that we now had 5 cases that were reported. Some say on Saturday, some are reporting on Sunday. Apparently, there are indications that there were no cases that were reported by late Sunday evening. The last report indicates Saturday by 9:15 p.m. So far, in Nigeria, 19 states have had the instances of COVID-19, and 17 other states have not had any cases at all. At the moment, there are 328 confirmed cases, 176 in Lagos, which is the highest. Federal Capital Territory has about 56, which is, I think, the second highest. Also has 20 or 11, and it cuts across. The new states that have just recorded, one of them is Kano, that has recorded an incident case, and that case is said to be among those who attended a birthday party in the United Kingdom. Unfortunately, we have lost 10 persons in Nigeria since this term began. 85 persons have tested negative and have been discharged from coronavirus. Across the world, in the United Kingdom, the Prime Minister Boris Johnson was discharged from hospital, but United Kingdom has had 10,000 deaths from coronavirus. United States has now 100,000, having surpassed Italy and Spain so far. Coming home, former military president Ibrahim Babangida has said that this is not time for blame game, and he's calling for synergy between state, federal and local governments. So all hands will be on deck to fight coronavirus. We shouldn't waste time about pointing fingers about quarantine. This is coming from the leader of the World Health Organization, Tedros Ghebreyesus, says that we should desist from blame game and we should not waste time on quarantine. Politicians should not politicize COVID virus. It is like playing with fire. In China, the Foreign Affairs Ministry has cautioned the Guangdong province, where they were practicing some discrimination against Africans, including Nigerians. The spokesman for the Foreign Ministry says that effective communication have been put in place for foreign consuls generals, and they will relate with them to ensure that equality is respected. There seem to be indications that the stay-at-home order that came on March 24th may be extended. In the statement by the Special Assistant for the President on Media and Publicity, 2 papers, Leadership and the Blueprint, are reporting that the President says that restriction and order containment will last as long as medical experts suggest that are as necessary. So we should brace up for the stay-at-home to continue until we are able to contain COVID-19.
Okay, now let's go to editorial.
Before you take the editorial, I mean, that's the point of the lockdown, so that Nigerians will not assume that this is punishment that is being needlessly imposed on the citizens. That's evidence to show that social distancing and then, of course, avoiding large crowds and so on and so forth through the lockdowns are yielding results in a number of jurisdictions. And I think we ought to be able to take the example, because if our numbers still look small now in terms of COVID-19 cases, in the U.S., I mean, it's catastrophic.
Yes. What is very clear now is that Nigerians have been sensitized. Already they have been sensitized on COVID-19, even at the village level. So let's go to editorials now, which is also on coronavirus. It says the corona peril. Health frontline workers deserve adequate protection as they care for patients. And Let's just take the first two paragraphs of this commentary. The link that ancient cynicism mainstreamed by Jesus Christ in the scriptures. Physician, heal thyself, to the taunt thrown at Jesus on the cross. He saved others, himself he cannot save. And you probably are resigned to the tragedy of doctors dying in the course of treating patients. The Ebola epidemic claimed Dr. Amayo Stella Adedevo, a medic of first rank, among other health frontline workers in the battle against Ebola. Though Dr. Adedevo is fondly remembered, with the Pharma Oil Limited donating 5 million naira to DRASA, the health trust named for the fallen medic, as part of Pharma's COVID-19 support response. It should have been better had Dr. Adedevo survived Ebola and was still with us. So the emphasis of this is on the frontline workers.
Yes. Well, can I quickly draw attention to the human interest story you reported? There were traders who were traveling from Katsina State going to a market in Zamfara. Unfortunately, bandits shot at their bus and the bus caught fire. 11 traders died and they have left behind 16 wives and 90 children. And so the villager was calling for support for those left behind. Now, coming to the editorial is happening on the fact that even the Lord Jesus Christ was stunted on the cross, that you save yourself. And it's now the parallel now is to doctors who are the front line and nurses of fighting coronavirus are gradually becoming victims. And the editorial is indicating that already there are 3 doctors in Akwa Ibom who have become victims and 1 in Edo. He also talked about the 3 that are in self-isolation across university teaching hospitals around the country. And the emphasis is that where attention should be given to medical personnel who are the front line, the editorial is suggesting insurance policies for life insurance for doctors who are there. You recall that in the FCT, the minister announced, I think it's 50,000 a day for some of the front line workers who are putting their lives online to ensure that all of us are safe from coronavirus. So the editorial is happening on the fact that the 5,000 naira that is paid to doctors as hazard hours is ridiculously not sufficient enough, considering the peril to which they subject themselves to at the expense for all of us.
Okay, Bayo, we'd like to thank you for being here, and then, of course, we'll see you again tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you on the network service of the NTA. We'll take a short break now. When we return.
This is Good Morning Nigeria, and of course we thank you for your company. Our conversation this morning borders on COVID-19 and the Easter celebration. And before we kickstart the conversation, here is Victor Azo with the background report.
On a hill far away stood an old rugged cross.
Easter, also called the Resurrection Sunday, is a religious festival. It signifies the end of the Lenten season. It is the climax of the Holy Week when Christians celebrate the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, the founder of the Christian faith. It is the season of sober reflection on the life and times of Jesus Christ, whose death on Good Friday is believed to have atoned for the sins of humanity and whose resurrection signifies victory for mankind. Although the current pandemic has encumbered the usually lively Easter worship in many churches, leading to scanty or totally empty church auditoriums, the messages from the pulpit suggest that the lessons of Easter are even more relevant for the times.
It is the love that we're talking about. We share love with one another and provide. Those that have, give to those that do not have. And also, in a way, to also help the government. The government is doing a lot, even at this time, to curtail the rampaging of coronavirus.
To roll away the biggest challenge now, which is COVID-19, Easter messages are calling on Christians and indeed all Nigerians to be steadfast in their faith in God and to look out for one another while adhering to the advisory given by relevant authorities.
By that resurrection, our hope daily has been reawakened. And if you look at the situation in which we are in of the pandemic, the virus, many people are now faithless, many people are hopeless, but the power of resurrection recovers our hope. recovers our faith, because he who was dead came back to life. So which means all the pandemic virus we are now going through certainly we will overcome.
So, just like Jesus Christ resurrected from the dead on a day like this, it seems that what is needed more than ever before is a resurrection of faith, that this too shall pass.
Many thanks, Victor Azu, for that backgrounder. We have guests with us here in the studios, and then other guests will also be joining us via Skype at locations in Abuja as well as in Lagos. First, let's welcome the Catholic Archbishop of Abuja, Most Reverend Ignatius Kaigama. Your great pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning and happy Easter.
Same to you. Also here with us in the studios, we would like to welcome Most Reverend Joseph Oche Job. He's the Archbishop of Abuja Archdiocese, Methodist Church of Nigeria. Your great pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria as well.
Thank you very much for having me, and good morning, Nigerians.
All right, and last but not the least, in our studios, regular guest on religious matters, the Reverend Israel Akonji. He is chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria North Central Zone and senior pastor of the First Baptist Church, Area 11 in Garki, Abuja. Pleasure to have you with us, Reverend, and happy Easter.
Happy Easter. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, and joining us via Skype in Abuja is the Primate Church of Nigeria Anglican Communion, Most Reverend Henry Ndukuba. You're welcome to the program.
Good morning, Nigerians. Thank you, Kirian.
All right, and also via Skype from Lagos is the General Overseer, Christ Family International Christian Center, Solomon Ozebe. We're glad to have you join us this morning on our program.
Nigeria, good morning, good morning. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Okay, all right. Pleasure to have all of you with us on this Easter Monday. But certainly, I mean, we are celebrating this year's Easter season against a most unusual background. For the first time in living memory, we have seen how part of the Lenten season went, and then the Easter celebrations. Putting this into context, some say, look, it's been a test of faith, and it's still ongoing. But as clergymen, what's your reaction to what the world is experiencing, and particularly for us here in Nigeria? Let's begin with Most Reverend Ignatius Kaigama.
Thank you. Easter calls us to joy. We may be sad about so many things, but at this time, we are told to identify with Christ, the risen Lord, and to rejoice in Him. We may be suffering, but we should also learn to smile. That there is hope. Coronavirus might be able to knock us off in different ways, but we are saying with every conviction that since death could not even defeat Jesus, it means that coronavirus can be defeated medically or spiritually by the power of Jesus. So to Nigerians, we say, this is a turbulent period. These are extraordinary times. The things we want to do, we cannot do. The joyful celebration of Easter we wanted to have, we could not. I came into Abuja as the new Archbishop. I expected to meet members of my congregation at this very holy period. But I ended up having an empty cathedral, empty churches. The pews are all empty. It's very discouraging. But in our faith, we don't give up. There is always light at the end of the tunnel. Jesus is alive, and He will do it for us. This is my conviction.
All right, thank you indeed. Now let's turn to Most Reverend Joseph Oche Job, the Archbishop of Abuja Archdiocese. Now, looking at what has actually taken place, St. Peter's Basilica and other worship centers across the globe, including churches in Nigeria, have been shut down based on this coronavirus pandemic. And here is a faith, that believes that, the death, resurrection, and the promised second coming of Jesus Christ form the bedrock of Christian faith. And in this circumstance, do you think that there is any spiritual connotation to what is happening to the world today? Because, of course, virtually every part of the world is feeling the heat.
Certainly, yes. The scriptures contains almost everything that happens on the surface of the earth. And if you turn to Matthew chapter 24, verses 21 to 23, the Bible says that time is coming when there will be distress in the land, in the global world. Say in the global world, there will be distress. And that some people's love for God will even begin to diminish. But with prayer and for the sake of the elect, God will shorten the days of our trouble. That's what Matthew 24, verses 21 to 23 say about calamity in the world. For Christians, when we see this calamity, since we have been given the warning that we should not allow our love for God to diminish, we take our firm stand on the faith that it will last for a while and it will finish. After all, Jesus said, this is the beginning of sorrow, but not the end of the age. So we do not believe that what we are now witnessing will end the world. It will not. The world keeps on existing. In fact, at the time of Noah, when the flood came, people thought that the world had come to an end. It didn't. And I keep on preaching to people that if you talk about this lockdown, that Noah was locked down for 5 months, 150 days. And it was when it was time for him to come out that God opened the door. And so what we Christians should be doing is to ask God, shorten the days of our being locked down and let the door be open for us. But as long as God has not seized the hands of coronavirus, we must be careful not to dance into the dens of lions. Because from every indication, this coronavirus gets into people's life, people's body, and by touching and by interacting, you get it. But if everybody takes cover and nobody interacts with the other person, especially those you don't know, of course you can't keep off from your wife, can't keep off from your children, you know these people. But those you don't know, if you don't interact with them, the virus will not have access to get itself transferred from one place to the other place, since it doesn't go with the air. So I think the scripture is very clear. For those of us who know the scriptures, we are not afraid. Our obedience to the law is not because of death that we are really doing it, but because we don't want it to continue to last. Because otherwise, people's love for God will begin to diminish. So we get ourselves indoor, teach our people to be indoor, do all the hygienic procedures that we have been asked to do, and is to save the world. Any Christian should begin to think of how to help the created world to exist.
All right, thank you very much, Most Reverend Joseph Job. Let's bring in now the Reverend Israel Akonji, who is the chair of the CAN in North Central Zone. The Reverend Akonji, give us a sense of your own context of this year's Easter season against the backdrop of the global health crisis that has indeed paralyzed the whole of the world.
Thank you very much. Actually, like others have been saying, the Easter season is a season of hope, a season of joy, a season when we celebrate the victory of Jesus Christ over death. And we all know that if Jesus has been victorious over death, we have hope in him to be victorious over all difficulties and all circumstances, and even over death too, with the hope of eternity someday in the future. That's our joy, that's our hope, and that's what we are still preaching. Like I was sharing with on an online program yesterday, I was telling the people that Jesus Christ died, and the Bible tells us that, and God has lifted him up and given him a name that is above all names, that at the name of Jesus, every knee shall bow in heaven and on earth and inside the earth, and every tongue confess that Jesus is Lord. So Jesus is Lord over all, and including coronavirus. Jesus is Lord over it. I know that a few people have said, where is your faith? Why is it that this disease is not gone? The disease will be gone. It may take its time, but it is not beyond God. It is still under the control of the Almighty God. So that is why we are encouraging people at this time to put their faith in God. I think one of the things that we should not allow is fear. Fear can even kill before the sickness comes. So some people are so afraid. That should not be. God is still present, and we should put our trust in him. Now, we also encourage people to obey the instructions given to us by medical people. And at this time, too, we have found out that Jesus, who sacrificed himself for us and had victory after the sacrifice, Jesus has taught us to be sacrificial. There are so many people that are in need now. People are hungry, and the hunger comes to whether a Christian or a Muslim or somebody who does not have any religion. This is a time to see the commonality of mankind, to love everybody, to help everybody. These are some of the ways we are telling our people to respond. And even in our churches, we have advised, especially in North Central, we have told churches to try to have some food stores so that they can help people who are helpless. And they should not discriminate. They should help everyone that comes in need of help. Jesus will want us to do such a thing.
All right, well spoken. Now let's go over to the Primate Church of Nigeria Anglican Communion, Most Reverend Henry Ndukuba, who is reaching us via Skype. Most Reverend, Archbishop Job just told us that we should not be afraid because it is even scriptural to have a pandemic in the world from time to time. And how would a Christian at this present time, be able to manage him or herself to ensure that the coronavirus does not diminish, the festival in terms of spiritual rejuvenation? How should Christians celebrate Easter in the face of coronavirus?
Thank you so much. The light shines brighter in darkness. And we thank God that the Lord our God is the strength of the poor and the strength of the needy in his distress. And in fact, the Lord is our shelter from the storm. And celebrating Easter in the context of this pandemic is a test of faith, but also a proof of the power of God. And so we thank God that he says that in all things, whether good or bad or challenging or not, that he works out his purpose for those who love him and those who are called according to his will. And in this situation, no matter what comes our way, as believers in Jesus Christ, he who died for our sins and rose from the dead, he has given us victory. He has given us hope. In fact, he has shown us that even in this situation, he loves us. So no matter what we are passing through, the fear of the coronavirus, the lockdown, the seeming challenges that surround us, it is good for us to know that, as Jesus says in John 14, verse 19, that because he lives, we too shall live. Let this give us hope. So as we face this challenge, I want to encourage Nigerians that the Lord is still in control. God is still in charge. He still loves us. And neither principality, nor powers, nor coronavirus, nor death, nor whatever may be able to separate us from the love of God that is for us in Christ Jesus. And therefore, let us look up unto him. Let us hold to the Lord Jesus Christ. Let us realize where there is fear, faith cannot operate. But where there is faith, we can see victory. Therefore, we want to encourage us to hold onto the Lord. This may be an occasion and opportunity for us to seek the Lord with all our heart and prepare ourselves. It's a time of sober reflection, and also to prepare to meet with our God, no matter whatever may come our way. Therefore, it will require that we take time to examine our lives individually and also as families and as God's people. If there be any way in which we have transgressed against the Lord, let us turn to him with all our heart. I know that the Lord is allowing this to come so that he will draw us unto himself. So, and I believe also it is giving us opportunity for us to rebuild our family altars. For many families, they have not been with their families due to work, business, but this lockdown has really brought the family together. And so we want to encourage families to spend time together, enjoy the fellowship and companionship of one another, and pray. And I want also to encourage us that this is the time to show love, given the situation in which we have found ourselves. We need to obey the directives of the government, and in fact, as the time stretches, our resources may go lean. The supply may go down. But we want to encourage us to trust in the Lord and help one another. This is the time to show love to one another. And I believe that as we bear one another's burden, encourage one another, pray for one another, and share, the Lord will help us to overcome. This is a battle. This is a warfare. The unseen enemy is walking around, striking people down. But this is the victory that we have, even over coronavirus, even our faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. And so let us take time to draw near to the Lord, and he will draw near to us. He will hear us. He will help us. He will be our strength, and he will be our shelter from this storm of coronavirus. And we will come out strong. We will come out victorious. We will come out well built to face the future. And I want to encourage us to utilize this time to seek the Lord, and he will answer us.
Thank you very much, Most Reverend Henry Ndukuba, for your opening salvo. We'll return to you in the course of the conversation. Let's also go over now to Lagos, where we earlier introduced General Overseer of the Christ Family International Christian Center, Solomon Oziegbe. If you can see him there on the right side of the screen, General Overseer Oziegbe will give us your opening comments with regard to the significance of the unusual Easter celebration that we're having in year 2020.
This Once again, I want to say good morning, Nigeria. This Easter period is such a wonderful season. As we all know, we're talking about the death and the resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ, how he rose and then brought redemption to mankind, brought salvation to mankind. And it happens to be in this time where this pandemic is spreading across the world. One of the things I see is that Easter is a thing of joy. Easter is a thing of love. Easter is a celebration of the wonderful act of Christ from the day he was crucified and dead, and then when he was killed, and then he was resurrected. And then a lot of us around the world, even in this moment, we could see that what happened even yesterday, Sunday, services were not held. A lot of people went on the social media platform to talk to members. Now, the significance of Easter in this period is that it makes every one of us to build our faith, because the Christian faith is what Easter is all about. Because the joy of Easter without the faith, because there's nobody that looked at this Easter that just came due to this pandemic that really found it as a joyful thing. But what do? We have to be glad. We have to be happy, because the purpose why Jesus died was for us to have joy. We have nothing to do than to thank God. That is why, in spite of the coronavirus, looking at what it has done to the world, and even in Nigeria, we discovered that everything was just God. God was the one that has kept us alive, because we cannot keep ourselves alive. It's just the grace of God and his mercy. So the Easter celebration significance to we as children of God is for us to understand that the purpose of his resurrection was for our faith to be built up, was for our comfort to be restored, was for us to understand the place of hope, like other colleagues, other reverends and bishops have said, the hope. Because when you lost hope, there's no life. And the reason why you see the issue of this virus that is spreading everywhere is because a lot of people don't have faith. They have fear. And that fear alone can kill, because the absence of faith is the presence of fear. So one thing I see is this Easter celebration has a very great significance to we as children of God, for us to boost our faith, to trust in God, to see that God has a reason why this pandemic took place this season. So a lot of people, if you look at what is going on, even right here in Lagos, you discover that a lot of complaint, a lot of murmuring due to the lockdown. People are locked down in their houses for the past 14 days. But it is for our good. It is for our joy. Because if we go out to the street and start, moving around, the epidemic or the pandemic will spread them all. And in fact, I want to really commend both the Lagos State Governor and the team, and also the team from the presidency. They are doing a great job. We are really very, very glad, because if you look at what has happened, the coping of this problem in Lagos, Lagos has one of the highest victims of this crisis. But the joy is that a lot of people are being discharged, and we are glad to hear that. So one thing we should understand, that Easter this season, we should see it as Christ came, died for us, resurrected, and every one of us should be glad and rejoice that the purpose of Christ's death was for this season, because he died, and that death brought healing. So we can see that God is doing his work, the medical professionals are doing their job, and it's such a great one. And the joy is that what they has really brought hope to a lot of Nigerians. So I can really say that this Easter period, the significance has really brought joy to Nigerians. A lot of people are not still happy because they feel there's no money. But the issue of money, if life is saved, it's bigger than money. Your health is most important. Yes. Health is wealth. When you have good health, you have good wealth. This issue will soon be over. We'll soon come out of it. And I believe that anything that has a beginning must surely has an end. So the Christians and believers and people all over the world, we should unite as one body, one faith. It's not a time to start saying, I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim, this. No, we are one. We are one Nigeria. If we can be united and come together as one and show love to each other, oh, there's nothing that is not possible that we'll do. Every impossibility will become possible. So I want to say this, that every one of us, the significance of this Easter, for me as a person and for the congregation and for people everywhere, is a thing of joy. It's a thing of happiness. It's a thing of peace. Because if you look at what has happened, you discover that people now are looking at themselves and say, oh God, thank you for saving me alive, for keeping me alive. Peace has really come to many people. People are making peace with themselves because they don't know whether the virus will even come to them. So this season has really made us to see that this world we are living is only by the grace of God. So every one of us should unite together, join hands together in victory to be able to conquer this virus. As the government has instructed, stay at home, and then do this, the hand wash, sanitizing and everything, and the social distancing. All these things will be a thing of the past. It's a matter of time. And I believe that with the faith we have in God, everything will be well. That's the contribution I have for now. I believe that God himself is taking charge of his work.
All right, that's interesting. That's interesting indeed. We'll come back to you as you move on. Well, it does appear that in this conversation we've been able to establish the fact that there is a spiritual dimension to any kind of a pandemic that befalls the world, such as a coronavirus. And it may not be a coincidence that it's happening at the time that the Christians are observing lengthy period, and of course the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Now, let's actually come back to Easter as a festival. Bishop Kegama. Why is it called Easter in the first place? And of course, does it have preeminence over other Christian festivities?
It is the greatest feast, the rising of Christ from the dead. Christmas is known and is very well celebrated, festively and so on, but Easter is still the greatest feast. And it injects a lot of hope that death cannot have the final word. And it has so many things to teach us. There cannot be Easter, the rising of Christ, without what went before. People forget that Christ lived and by his very life wanted to show us the authentic and genuine way of living. We want to celebrate him at the resurrection, but we forget that before the resurrection, he had to suffer, he had to be ridiculed, he had to be beaten up, he had to be considered like a criminal and painfully nailed to the cross. So there is a lesson there that before you can have victory, you have to suffer. Sometimes we hate to hear the word cross, but that was what Christ had to endure. We are being taught today in Nigeria and the whole world that suffering is an inevitable part of life. We must embrace it with the spirit of faith. But some of us say we reject anything to do with suffering. And when you suffer, they feel it is because God has rejected you or because you have sinned. We must be able to go beyond the hardship we suffer or encounter. So Easter is a message, a great message, that times may be difficult. This is the time we are all locked in and cannot come out freely. Food is not available, water, electricity, all these are lacking. How do you pass through these difficult times with that Christian faith, with that Easter faith? This is what Easter is pulling us to be able to live in bad times, in challenging times, with a dynamic faith, with that joyful faith that nothing can drown. So we continue to pray that we will come to understand the message of Easter, and we will come to accept what Jesus taught us before he died. He was able to wash the feet of his apostles, a sign of love, that a leader should love, a leader should serve his people and not to dominate over them. He was able to forgive. Even at the point of being nailed to the cross, he was forgiving. Can we forgive? We harbor ill feelings. We create artificial barriers, north, south, Muslim, Christian, this tribe and that tribe, this clan and all that, and we are always in conflict. Jesus has taught us, even before his crucifixion and death, that we should live a harmonious life. We should be united. We should show fraternal and genuine love to one another. And this is what is missing. So if this coronavirus pandemic has created that feeling of a common humanity, we can only say, well, this is the message God is passing to us by allowing this pandemic to come. That we must just embrace one another. This attitude of arrogance, superiority, and so on, we are better than you, we can do this better than you. We see that we are all reduced to the same level now. And so, it's a powerful message to the world that there is God, and God is in charge. And no matter our knowledge, our technological and scientific skills, God is still in control. And that, compared to God's power, is very, very little. So nobody should deceive himself or herself that he is somebody or she is somebody. God is still competent. He is still the creator. He is still the omnipotent being. This we must realize. So we pray that the lesson is learned. And we pray that God will intervene quickly and bring this suffering to an end. This is our prayer. Fervently, we pray that this will come to an end quickly and that the lesson would have been learned by all of us.
All right. Thank you very much, Archbishop. Let's also bring in Archbishop, Most Reverend Joseph Job. Now, one of the antecedent events to the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and then his resurrection has to do with betrayal. And I'm sure if you are also on the social media network, you would have received one of those messages late last week that said, by this time over 2,000 years ago, Judas Iscariot had received his alert, having betrayed Jesus Christ. So what are the lessons that we now can, as human beings, learn from that act of betrayal, even though it was in fulfillment of the scriptures?
I want to say exactly what Jesus said, that it would have been better if the person who is betraying the Son of God were not born. I agree with you perfectly that it was to fulfill the scriptures. But the essence of betrayal, the weight of betrayal, is very, very dangerous. Whether it is the company you are betraying, or the president of the country or the governor of the country you are betraying, or a head of your office that you are betraying, the word betrayer itself is very, very dangerous. It should, in fact, another word for us is to be treacherous. Because in betrayal, you present yourself as a friend of the person you are going to betray. And you carry his heart all away from what you think he will do and what you think he will suspect. And then you go underneath and you come up dangerously in giving him what he didn't expect. If that is done to anybody, whether the government or a society or a family level, the person who does that should be excommunicated from the society. And so Jesus said it would have been better if he were not born. For Judas to have betrayed Jesus, a betrayer is somebody who knows the person is going to betray very, very well. Judas has, in fact, the Bible says Judas was a treasurer of Jesus' group. He was a treasurer. That was the post he was holding. And so the trust Jesus gave him to be a treasurer, and another portion of the Bible says the person who dips his hand into the bowl with me and ate food with me is the one to betray me. And so in every meaning of it and every cycle of how you are going to interpret it, Judas Iscariot was quite close to Jesus. And for him to have done this was very, very bad. And I just want to bring it to our present situation. The coronavirus is not a betrayal of anybody. It's pandemic. It's general sickness, a global sickness that has been allowed to happen to us. But either to test our faith and or to draw us, because there is no happening on earth that hasn't got a purpose that will bring us to God. It doesn't chase us away from God, rather it brings us closer to God. And so coronavirus is to bring us closer to God. And there's no betrayal in it. But we can learn a lesson of betraying our trust, betraying our leaders, betraying our husbands, betraying our office head as a result of this coronavirus that people have taken in. I'm saying this because a lot of people say, this money they are raising, is this, is that, is that. I think that is very dangerous for us to begin to think. And I want to quote the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He said, make sure that nobody embezzles the money they are gathering. Diligently hand over this money to the designated areas. And I want all Nigerians to trust us and to believe that what we say we are going to do it. And so from that statement alone, and I know he said it from the heart of his heart, there's no way we can be peddling or rumoring or interpreting in a way as to betray our government. There is no way we can betray our churches, because churches are also contributing. And in every church, people are gathering money here and there. But there are the betrayers in the churches who will feel, we are just collecting this money for the use of a particular head of the church. No. This is a time to be sincere, and this is the time to believe one another. If we don't believe one another, it's also sin. It's sin to not to believe, because the sin of unbelief is greater than the sin that you commit elsewhere. It is the sin of unbelief that takes you to hell. If you don't believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, it takes you to hell. If you don't believe that Jesus Christ resurrected, it takes you to hell. If you don't believe that Jesus is God, it takes you to hell. Anything that beclouds your belief, it leads you to where you should not be. And so I want to summarize here by saying that betrayal should be avoided in this particular period of coronavirus. This virus is going about, this epidemic is going around to weaken the faith of many. Right. But let us believe one another. Okay. And begin to think that what is very clear to us is that the sickness is real. What is not clear to us is that we don't know how to cure anybody. And anybody who has been cured, who has been healed out of it, we should attribute the glory to God and not to man.
All right, thank you indeed. In fact, coronavirus has also prompted some atheists to begin to believe in God. Let's bring in the Most Reverend Israel Akonji here. Well, perhaps you may like to talk about the betrayal aspect of the Easter, because the practice is so pervasive. It is in workplaces, in churches, marketplaces, and organizations. That's number one. I also like you to look at one biblical event which has to do with the event of the upper room. I want you to link the event of the upper room to the transformation of Christianity, and of course the event of Easter celebration. I want you to, what is the correlation, between the event of the upper room and the Easter celebration, and of course the transformation of Christianity after the resurrection of Jesus Christ?
Well, thank you very much. I think he has spoken extensively on betrayal. I just want to add that all that the betrayal issue is telling us is that each one of us should be faithful. Wherever we have been called to serve, we should be found faithful. And we should see every service we are called to render as service unto God. Whatever is placed in your hand, be a faithful person with it. Especially during this period when there is need for a lot of trust. Whatever you do, there must be trust. Somebody is in charge of the store, somebody is in charge of money, somebody is in charge of distribution, somebody is in charge of dispensing one thing or another. And all that each one should do is to be faithful. Let us know that we brought nothing into this world and we shall take nothing out of this world. And everybody should treat other people with love. So that's that about betrayal. Concerning the upper room was a place of a special experience wherein Jesus celebrated the Passover feast. We all remember that the Passover has to do with the deliverance of the children of Israel from their bondage in Egypt. The Passover was established upon the instruction of God that the Israelites that time should slaughter animals and then put the blood by the lintels of their homes and their doorposts, and that the angel was going, the angel of destruction, and of course wherever the blood was, the angel would pass over. And at the end of that experience, the Israelites came out. God delivered them because God really wanted them out of slavery. But the Egyptians that time did not allow them to have that freedom. So God had to do that. And now God now says it should be established as an ordinance, which should be observed every year. So on that day at the upper room, Jesus and his disciples, they were actually celebrating the Passover to remind the people that God loves the freedom of his people. And the Passover was to be celebrated every year so that every generation will come to know that God released his people. So that was what they were celebrating. But now Jesus now said, I'm now giving you a new covenant. So there is something new again out of it. Even though it was celebration of an old thing, and he was giving them the cup and the bread and the wine as his own body and his blood that he was going to sacrifice, give for the sacrifice of men. And he now said, this should be done always in remembrance of him. So the upper room experience is to remind us of the fact that Jesus gave his life and sacrificed his life in order for mankind to be reconciled to God and be redeemed. And that all of us are called to a life of sacrifice. In order to live as Christ lived, we must sacrifice our time, our money, our resources. We must sacrifice things for the sake of other people. So you cannot live a Christian life without really being sacrificial, like our Lord was sacrificial. But the joy of it all is that after Jesus gave everything, God exalted him and gave him a name above all names. In other words, God gave him back everything that he gave. So anyone who makes sacrifice at the end of the day again, God has a way of blessing such persons. He will give you back even all that you have given. He has given him a name above all names, that at the name of Jesus every knee should bow. So the joy we have is that when God is saying you should live sacrificially, ultimately it is for his glory and for your own good too. So during this period, I would say the upper room experience of the sacrifice of Jesus should come back to us so that we shall also live sacrificially in our own times with people, neighbors, and people in need. Let us be willing to make sacrifice and join our nation too in the struggle to assist people out of the difficulty now. We must sacrifice our time to pray for doctors, pray for scientists, pray for our government, pray for so many groups that are stakeholders, essential service people, the security people, even the media people. the television, all, we have to be praying for them because they must be communicating us in our homes, and they face a lot of risk too in doing this. They all need protection. As we spend our time doing that for others, we are making sacrifice, which in the end God will bless. That's the upper room connection.
All right. Thank you very much, Reverend Akonji. I would like to go over now back to the primate of the Church of Nigeria Anglican Communion, Most Reverend Henry Ndukuba. Most Reverend Ndukuba, I still would like to stick with the issue of some of the antecedent events leading to the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. If you wish, you may comment on the aspect of betrayal, and particularly the personal consequence arising from the suicide that ensued by Judas Iscariot. That's one. Second leg of it also has to do with justice, because if you look at the process of trial, Jesus Christ wasn't just snatched from the street and then nailed to the cross. There was a trial process. Pontius Pilate, of course, had his day, but some would say it was kangaroo justice that Jesus received, even though, again, it was in fulfillment of the scriptures. What lessons are enduring from this more than 2,000 years later in terms of justice in our everyday lives and our everyday interaction?
Thank you so much. When we look at the events leading up to Easter, especially the events of Thursday night and Friday that led up to the crucifixion, especially the trial of Jesus Christ. In fact, in Isaiah 53 had already prophesied that he was led like a lamb to the slaughter. And as lamb before his shearers could not open his mouth, so he was. And justice was denied him. You look at it, there were people who were looked for in order to accuse him. They tried to find fault with him, but they could not. Only when the high priest asked him under oath, "Are you the Son of the Blessed? Are you the Son of God?" And he said, "Yes. You will even see him come in his glory," which is true. He spoke the truth. But because it is not the kind of truth they were looking for, and they were actually looking for something to get him trapped and accuse him and have reason to kill him. That's why they did what they did. It is commonly said, give a dog a bad name, and then you can kill it. So Jesus spoke the truth. Even before Pilate, he said to Pilate, "My kingdom is not of this world. If it were of this, my servants would have fought for me." And that is who he is. On Palm Sunday, he entered Jerusalem not privately, not secretly. He entered in the fulfillment of who he is, the King of Zion, the Son of David, and the Lord of all. And the people acknowledged that and sang praises unto him, Hosanna. But the religious leaders and political authority could not accept him. But be it as it may, it is to fulfill the word of God. And today we can also see selective hearing and acceptance. And oftentimes, when you speak truth to power, you may not be liked. And when you say the truth and stand by it, people will not like it. We want to be politically correct, and it is good to do so. But let us seek to do the will of God and the mind of God. No matter who, let us speak the truth. But what we can also learn from the trial of Jesus is that anybody can be misquoted, whether a leader or a follower, whether the governor or president or civil servants or anybody. Miscarriage of justice can happen anywhere. And in fact, we are living in a situation in which we need to ask those who are in charge of dispensing justice to seek to first please God and stand for justice, for equality, for equity. And when we do that, people will be confident, people will be free, people will be helped. And whosoever that is wanting to undo his neighbor or brother or sister, the judicial system will be there to acquit that person. And that's why it is said that the law court is the last hope for the common man. And I pray that Jesus, even though he faced injustice, he was denied justice and he was condemned. Even instead of letting him go, they demanded for Barabbas, a murderer, because that is what the leadership wanted. That is what was politically correct for them. And they did it, but it was in fulfillment of the word of God. And so God can walk through even our suffering, even our injustice that we suffer, or abandonment, or denial, or rejection, to fulfill his will. So no matter whatever that comes our way, let us trust in the Lord who will judge us justly. And in fact, when everything is done and finished, both the judge and the convict, or those that are justified or acquitted, will stand before God. He is the righteous God. He is the righteous judge. And I pray that as we look unto God, he will do that for which he is known. And whatever may happen to us, let us accept that God's will shall be done in our lives.
All right. Thank you, all of you gentlemen of God who have been here this morning making valid contributions to our conversation this morning, which borders on Easter celebration at a time when the world is being rampaged by unseen enemy. It's described by people in so many ways that the pandemic is invincible, but of course is a major predator to mankind today. Now we'll take a short break. When we return, we'll continue our conversation, of course, with Solomon Oziebwe, who is one of our guests there in Lagos via Skype. Stay with us. All right, you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria, and at this point we'd like to go to Solomon Oziebwe, who is the General Overseer of the Christ Family International there in Lagos via Skype. Now, the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, which culminated in Easter celebration, came with it a new life, the Christ-like way of life. And I wanted to look at today's Christians and Christianity as it is practiced to see whether we have certain qualities that are depicting the transformation that the resurrection of Christ has brought into Christianity. We talked a short while ago about the issue of betrayal. There's also disobedience and what have you. Let's get your analysis of how today's Christians have really made good use of the significance of Easter celebration.
Oh, thank you. To God be the glory. I want to say this is a very beautiful, wonderful moment. You see, Easter celebration to the Christendom as the death of Christ and his resurrection brought a lot of beautiful, wonderful blessings and significance. But you see, when you look at the Christendom today, it's not being practiced by all. If you look at Christ, the way he came, he died an innocent man that was sent from God. It came in the likeness of man, but he was God. But the Bible said God had to allow him to come to die for us because he became man so as to die for the sins of humanity. Now Christianity came alive. But if you look at it today, we are not really practicing it. Christianity today has been turned to religion. There's a difference between a true Christian and a religious Christian. A religious Christian is a nominal Christian who loves to just, keep by the vibes of the doctrine of a church, but not serving God in the reality of a true heart. Now, when you look at the significance of Christianity today, based on the Easter, you discover that Easter itself is known for the basis of the force of resurrection. Because Christ's death brought us, alive into real Christianity. But it's discovered that today a lot of people, a lot of Christians, they profess the name, I am born again, or I am saved, or I go to church, or I belong to this denomination. So they have been able to, put it in a way of denomination and what I believe. But if you look at Christ, he came, died, resurrected, and then gave us the force of a true Christian life. So if a lot of people today are not really practicing that essence of a true Christian, a true Christian is not just professing, I call the name of Jesus. No, it's the life that people will see, a reflection. Like the Bible said, we are the light of the world. So when you see a child of God that is a light, you know that this one is a child of God. Because the Christianity we portray shows from our attitude, our character, our ways, our conduct, the way we act to the world. That's what will make people to know that truly these ones are called by God. These ones are true saints. Now, when you look at the present day Christianity and look at what the betrayal, the issue of betrayal, I would love to talk about betrayal because betrayal is a very deadly virus like the coronavirus we're talking about. Because if you look at betrayal, Judas Iscariot was loved. It was even the most loved himself and Peter. Now, but you look at the way he betrayed Christ was something that himself, Christ was like amazed because he looked at this is the same man that was even my treasurer, the one keeping the money, just like somebody that is keeping offering in the house of God or taking the money to the bank. Now you look at it that Judas betrayed Christ based on many reasons. Even today, we look at what is going on even in the Christian faith. One brother betraying the other brother. One pastor betraying the other. So you discover that because of that, disunity has entered the house of God. No more love. We no more see love like we used to. Love is out of even the church, even the present day church. You see the issue of hypocrisy, pretense before your fellow brother. What really happened to Judas Iscariot is that he was pretending to say he was following Christ, but he was not. He was not following because he already had in mind that he was going to the same attitude, criminal mind. He had this criminal mind of selling Christ for money, and you remember he was a treasurer, so that shows he loves money. And he was able to betray Christ, and he did that with joy, no conscience. He had dead conscience. Imagine somebody that was following Christ had dead conscience. You can imagine that. And it's happening today. So Judas Iscariot did that because he saw that the only way for him to get what he's looking for is to betray the one he loved. And he did that. And he went away with it. But you saw the way he died. He lost it. So the issue here is Christianity should be done in true love. We should practice it in true love. Because betrayal is normally carried out by people you love. People you see, you draw closer. People you think that they are with you, but they are not for you. And if you look at it today, even in the country and beyond, a lot of people tend to love Nigeria. But at their back, they're saying things against even the president, saying things even against the governmentship of the country. The same country you are living, providing things for you, you talk against it. You go to social media, you see people writing things that are odd. And then when you come out, they hail you. They say, they begin to appreciate as if they love what Nigeria or what the president is doing. Whereas the president and the body, they are trying and doing their best. All we need to do is to appreciate. But betrayal is now an issue that people don't see their loved one as their loved one. Because why? There is no love. And when there's no love, there'll be hatred. And you see people, your fellow brother that God created, if Jesus didn't love us, he wouldn't die. The Bible said he said, for God so loved the world, he gave. So that he gave means sacrifice. So Christianity is all about true love and sacrifice, sharing, ability to say to ourselves that what I have, if my brother needed it, I need to give to my brother. If my sister needed it, I need to give to my sister. So he gave his only, see look at only talks about sacrifice, only begotten son, the one that he loved and cherished in heaven. He has to send him to die for us because of the issue of sacrifice. So, but along the run, you discover that the people he still died for were the same people crying before Pilate, crucify him, crucify him. So you discover that the same people you are even loving are telling other people, crucify him, because of the issue of envy, jealousy. Because when you are envious and jealous, you can't rise above where you are. And that's exactly what happened. The same people Jesus healed, the same people Jesus came to die for, the same people he came, he resurrected for, the same people everything he came to do. But yet, at that day, they will say, crucify him, let his blood be upon us. That is exactly what is going on today. You see in a family where people, you're the one that is doing well among the family, the one that is taking care of the mother and the father, and the other siblings are there. They will not appreciate the one that is even making things happen in the family. And because of why? Envy. They are envious of their brother, envious of the one they came from the same womb with. Because of that, they are just there. So the problem we have today in a lot of Christian home and families and even in the house of God is that we have a lot of crucifying. Your pastor didn't say something well, you don't understand.
All right, General Overseer Solomon Ozegbe, thank you very much there for your comments. We're running pretty close down to the end of the program. We have some tweets, and then we still have, my colleague and I probably have a question each to pop around so that you can hear your comments. Amokbola Humbabs has this tweet. It's only when we are alive that we celebrate. There's no denying the fact that the ravaging COVID-19 pandemic has had its toll on livelihood generally. Even the Vatican advised that people celebrate indoors. Let's pray this whole thing ends so we can live our normal lives again.
Mike Anyakwa says, Easter is a very great celebration in Christendom. This year's celebration coincided with the world's deadliest disease of our time, coronavirus. As Christians, we must not lose hope. We should believe in our prayers that by the wounds of Jesus Christ on the Mount of Calvary, we are healed. Our faith in Christ Jesus must be strengthened at this time with prayers and supplications.
Festus Akimboyewa, Easter was very different this year due to COVID-19. Christians in many states basically celebrated a stay-at-home Easter because of the restrictions on movement. But glory to God that many Christians were still able to fellowship through recorded and live-streamed services.
Raphael Collins says, though hitting the average Nigerian heart, the COVID-19 lockdown has gone further to buttress what Jesus meant when he implied that our bodies are the temple of God and not buildings. Worship God in truth and in spirit, not by church attendance.
Law Alpha C. This year's Easter celebration calls for greater sober reflection and exercise of faith that the victory Jesus Christ recorded at the expense of death has the potency of ensuring global recovery.
Well, from David Sharon says that it's so unfortunate that Easter fell during this pandemic, which has compelled many to stay at home and celebrate on a low-key form. But only the living can celebrate it, and we thank God that we are alive to witness another Easter. Though the nation is on lockdown, but the gate of heaven is open for us to seek God to heal our land.
Ricky Babalola Kerele, the Easter was very quiet though, quite unlike other times. Yet it was also a time of reflection and connecting with God to heal us on our land. Some people will appreciate God more after this pestilence is gone.
All right, from Titus Monday York, I just still don't know why some people still think that God answers prayers only in places of worship or not elsewhere. He said that we have a pandemic and even the scriptures admonish what to do at such times, but some people choose to do otherwise. We have a pandemic, Please stay at home.
Dele Jack Solomon, as the guidance and rules surrounding the outbreak of coronavirus continue to evolve, the church needs to ensure that it protects its most vulnerable members. It's our responsibility, if we truly love one another, to stay at home to defeat the virus. On this Easter, we notice churches were still having physical meeting, but from a distance by observing social distancing. Some hosted drive-in Easter service, others used live stream and Zoom apps. In all cases, attendees were able to see and listen to the sermon without breaking social distancing guidelines.
Kaku David, I believe we will have many more Easter celebrations after COVID-19. It's only the living that celebrates. This is a time for sober reflection on those things we have taken for granted over the years, like freedom of movement, love of expressing hugs, handshakes, and so on.
Francis Obi, now that we have known the mode of transmission and from all interviews carried by TV stations, government can assist traders by way of providing them face masks and hand gloves freely. There should be more enlightenment for overseas returnees to go for tests.
All right, First Ola has a different view altogether. Say, I want to commend the NTA staff for the good work, especially Good Morning Nigeria crew. It's quite sad that you are not paid any allowance. Well, we didn't tell you that. He said maybe government should also look into it because they're the media. Without the media, nobody will know about the virus.
All right. Al Hassan Ahmad says Christians should demonstrate practically their faith and emulate the life and virtues of Jesus, such as sacrifice, love, and unity.
All right, Fagu Robert, it is painful that Christians could not congregate to celebrate the Easter Sunday, but the situation on ground requires that we support the government by obeying precautionary measures, especially during this coronavirus pandemic.
Okay, just for the remainder of the time that we have, we understand just about 3 minutes, sub 5 minutes that we have for this. When calamity happens, usually people of God seek refuge in the Almighty. They seek understanding, they seek answers to what has happened. And in living memory, I mean, we understand that, okay, you have pandemics every century or thereabout, but the world wasn't like this a century ago. The kind of development that we have seen around the world, and now empty streets and cities that never used to sleep, they are all, a calm sleep, even though, dead bodies are piling up on account of COVID-19. Earlier, the Most Reverend Dukuba was saying that, look, one of the lessons to take away from this may very well be that God is asking us to get more united with our families, to rebuild our family altars. What other lessons could be inherent in this? I want to ask Most Reverend Kaigama, against the background of maybe a number of other incidents and warnings that we have seen in the scriptures. I mean, the scriptures say, look, don't eat certain unclean animals. There have been speculations as to the source of this coronavirus. Scriptures are clear, don't eat certain unclean animals. We also saw what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah. In different parts of the world, we know all kinds of things that are in vogue now, and I'm sure everybody is quiet now because everybody is battling an unseen enemy. What is the inherent lesson in this that we can't take away on a long-term basis so we can get much closer to God?
Well, thank you. For Christians, the lesson is clear that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. We've talked about Judas here and his role in betraying our Lord Jesus Christ. I have been going around the world and I have lived my priestly life for so long. I never heard anybody taking the baptismal name Judas. This is because they know Judas doesn't, signify somebody who means well. This is the time to really, for us Christians, to be Christ-like. And every Christian should be another Christ. The name Christopher means the bearer of Christ, the person who bears Christ. That is, the light of Christ should be seen, shining in you. Matthew chapter 5, verse 16, let your light shine so that people may see the glory of God the Father in you. So we are called to be different, to be a new creation, to be different people. In terms of love, love without boundaries. In terms of unity, social cohesion across religious and ethnic divide. And in terms of service to the nation, it should be selfless service. Those who have positions of authority, they should know that it's for service. Jesus knelt down and washed the feet of his apostles, and that is a great lesson. When I hear us reciting the national pledge or singing our national anthem to say, "Oh, arise, O compatriot, Nigeria's call obeyed. Let's serve our country in love, in strength, and faith. And let's do everything to promote our country in freedom, in peace, and unity." So lovely words. And when we are taking public offices, we also re-emphasize the fact that we will serve Nigeria with all our strength, all our might, everything. But then in practice, we don't. Yeah. So this is the time that religion should be translated into concrete practice.
Right. Thank you so much, Archbishop. Well, we have actually come to the end of this edition of the program. It's been a very robust conversation discussing Easter in the face of coronavirus. And at this point, we'd like to appreciate all our guests. And first, let's first of all appreciate the Catholic Archbishop of Abuja, Most Reverend Ignatius Kaigama. We thank you for coming on the program
Pleasure.
today. And also, Most Reverend Israel Akonji, the Chairman, Christian Association of Nigeria, North Central Zone. It's been wonderful talking to you on Easter Monday. Thank you indeed for coming.
Thank you very much.
I would also like to appreciate Most Reverend Joseph Oche Job, Archbishop of Abuja, Archdiocese, Methodist Church of Nigeria. We thank you for your time and your insights as well. All right, and via Skype, the Primate Church of Nigeria Anglican Communion, Most Reverend Henry Ndukuba, we thank you for your contribution, as well as the General Overseer, Christian Family International Christian Center, Solomon Oziebwe. We thank all of you for being part of our show this morning. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
All right, so that does it for us today on Good Morning Nigeria. Easter Monday, once again, we wish you a happy celebration, but stay safe. Good Morning Nigeria returns